Hey y'all, it's David Ducker coming back at you, and today I'm going to be doing a retrospective on our just ended campaign. And for 54-hour sessions, so that's about 200 hours in the bank. I was using the Game of Thrones rule set in the Warhammer Fantasy setting. It was called Return of the Runefangs. And I serialized recaps of our sessions up to about session 20, but the views were so low. There was like one person watching, so I stopped that around session 20. So the remaining 30 sessions were not documented in real time, but I'll go through and discuss that a little bit now. But let's get a big overview. Let's think about a retrospective. What did I learn from this campaign? And the main thing that springs to my mind is that I learned that players really do matter. You know, I knew this before, and I always take good care of my players. I take good care in selecting my players. But it's not just the quality, it's the commitment. Because we had about 10 players move in and out of this campaign. And by the end of it, you know, we only had like 2 left. You know, Megan joined the army. Kevin's wife went back to school. Scotty got married. Mike moved away. You know, we had a plethora of people come in and out. And every time someone would come in, I'd try to do the right thing and set them up. Get a hot intro scene, get all their plot hooks, all their NPCs, make them the star of the show for like 3 or 4 sessions. And because we ended up having 10 people in and out and in and out, you know, the amount of time we wasted that we didn't get a big enough payoff for was unacceptable, in my opinion. And also, when they were on the way out, because I wanted to pay off, we'd have to take like 1 or 2 or 3 sessions to get that payoff and say, oh, Megan's joining the army. I still have her for 1 session. We got to do a big blow off. All of her storylines, we got to do the best we can to wrap them up. This session, give her a dramatic death or a dramatic send off, or turn her evil so she can switch to being a referee controlled character. And ultimately, a lot of that was kind of a time waster as well. You know, I can only imagine if we had all 200 of these hours on the main plot, it would have been even better at the end. You know, because I always play for the end game. And when you're beginning and middle or weak, the end is going to suffer. You know, it's like exponential investment. The less time you have to build up, the smaller the payoff is. And because we had all these other demands on our time, it drained the big final payoff. So that was my main lesson looking back. Lesson number 2, and I did a video about this, was history. Because we had the present day, but we had 20 years ago, there was a great war. So every NPC who was old enough to remember it had this unified link. They were part of the world. They knew each other. They'd heard of each other. Oh, you were at this battle during the war. Oh, I've heard about that. We even did prequels set during the war. You know, one-shots, not included in the 50 main with the main characters, but with their fathers, grandfathers. Seeing what they did during the war, how this war shapes today. So having recent history in the game, not just ancient history, but you know, going up to a 50-year-old man and saying, you know, tell me about your life, and they have something, you know, and because it's a big event, it's less work than making a whole life story for every NPC, because you have these big events to tie them together, tie them to the world, shared experience, easier on the GM, greater immersion. So that's a great tool, and I love that. I'm going to use it in all my future games, absolutely. So those are my 2 big lessons probably coming out of it. Uh, I'd previously done a retrospective on our previous campaign, and the lessons that I learned there, I applied well here. Those lessons about keeping the rule set in check, keeping the power level of the characters in check, keeping the power level and the description of the power level in line. Because previously we'd been using Pathfinder, and it's so powerful that it doesn't really make sense to have feudal armies when you've got a necromancer who can just wipe it out like that. So this time, as I said, we were more selective in our rule set. Game of Thrones rule set fits the Warhammer setting very well. We injected magic, but the Warhammer magic, of course, fits the setting, but it's also scaled very well for that gritty, uh, realistic kind of feel, where wizards are not ridiculously more powerful than a knight or than an assassin, perhaps. So that's probably it's probably good for my retrospective on that. And I think our pacing was very, very good. Our build up was great. We lost some of the payoff, like I said, because people left and their characters had to be dealt with, and we didn't get full payoff out of them, sadly. But we did the best with what we had, and it was pretty darn good. I mean, the ending was quite excellent, in my opinion. I think everyone who was still there would agree with that. So I just wanted to share that kind of learning experience with you. I may do a recap on the story at some point, but for right now, I just wanted to share a retrospective of the lessons learned, those two main lessons. So I'm going to sign off now. Everybody have a good night.